The following is brought to you by Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. TotalSeal.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to Hidden Horsepower presented by Total Seal Piston Rings. I'm Joe Castello, and we have got another great episode for you. And this one, they're not all like this, but this one is very timely. Like, we're putting out the episode as pretty much as soon as we did it, because there's all kinds of news that we're going to focus on, things that you want to listen to it right away and maybe go to and be a part of it, go check out something, or at very least pay attention to something that went down very recently. So we can get into it, I want to share all this news with the Director of Technical Sales from Total Seal Piston Rings, Mr. Keith Jones, who's out there somewhere in our great country. What's up, Keith? How are you?
Hey, Joe, I am doing great, and thanks for having me on again. For those interested, I'm sitting in my rental car in the middle of Indiana in the sweltering summer heat, and damn, you people have got this thing called humidity. I am just not used to this.
Yes, you do. But then again, compared to Florida, where I am, it's not quite the same. But that's great. You're out there. And we have another guest, and we're going to bring him on in a second. He's the sales manager for North America for Rottler. Getting ready for the big Rottler open house. Ed Kiebler is at our Trackside Tech Talks whenever we do them in the Total Seal Pit. You've been there, Keith. He's fam, right? That's how the kids would say it. He's fam, as in family, Keith.
Absolutely. He's we'll say we're a group of brothers. Fam is absolutely the word to use, and Ed is absolutely part of the family, and love having him there.
All right, so let's bring him on as well. He is also in a rental car somewhere, right, Ed?
I am. I'm in Albion, Illinois, in front of a customer shop where we're setting up a brand new vertical honing machine.
Well, that's great. You can shout out your customer. I'm okay with it, Keith. Are you okay with it, Keith?
Oh, no problem at all.
Where are you?
We're in front of Collier Performance, Jeff Collier, great guy. And I have learned a ton at this thing. I knew nothing about derby motors. I just figured a derby motor was some guy or car. Some guy went to the junkyard, found an old car, found an old motor, took everything he could off of it, reinforced the radiator area, and went out there and crashed it up. Man, I'm telling you, the science behind this is unbelievable.
Wow, tremendous.
I got to touch on that because, a couple of hidden horsepowers back, Ed, we had a gentleman you're familiar with, Jeff Baldwin, on there. And
yeah.
Jeff went into quite a bit of detail about the Derby engine. And like you, I had no idea. I was gobsmacked by it. It was
yes.
Like, you do what to do what?
Big money demolition derby was a shocking line to even say. All right, I didn't even realize it. But, okay, guys, let's get in on it because I want to post this one nearly immediately so the audience out there can get in and prepare for a couple of things that are going to be going on. But I also want them to know there's going to be a lot of information on this show because when it comes to honing, Keith, like this is the guy. We turn it over to him at the Trackside Tech Talks. We've got one coming up as the National Hot Rod Association heads up to Pacific Raceways and Sonoma, then Pacific Raceways, kind of the home of Rottler in the Seattle area. Hartford with a big win out there in Denver. He's the defending race winner up there in Seattle. Everything kind of converging together here, fellas. Big things happening for Hidden Horsepower right now. I'd like to tackle all of these on the show, but I think we should talk about Hartford winning a pro stock race first, right? Wow. Congratulations. Tremendous victory. Guy was up on the wheel, 004 in the final round, and they get a win. I thought it was great. I was fortunate to be there on the property to watch it all go down. I'm sure you guys watched and saw on TV, but just tremendous. Headed to Sonoma and then Seattle. Everyone will get a chance to go to the pit and do the Trackside Tech Talk. We'll give you the days and the times. But what do you guys think of Hartford? Huge win.
Well, I'll grab onto that. I couldn't be more proud of Matt. Like I said, it's overdue coming. These guys work so hard. You guys talk about it on TV and stuff, but what people have to realize, I mean, his crew, his team, that's his family and friends. This isn't, the hired guns out there. I mean, this is family and friends. These guys work so hard, put in so many hours. Well-deserved win. couldn't be prouder for them. Like I said, you watch those lights getting better every round. I hope they can carry that head of steam, straight into Sonoma, straight into Seattle, and watch him sweep the Western swing. I would just, it couldn't make me happier, and I know it would make him happy.
Oh, yeah. Ed?
Oh, and I have to agree. I jumped out of my chair when he won that thing. That was just super exciting. I'm with Keith. I am humbled to be just even associated with that team, and I watch how hard they work every race. When I'm around there, those guys are thrashing. And it's, as Keith said, it's a family deal. It's not hired guns. And that was just so exciting. And we are so pumped up to do the Trackside talk up there in Pacific Northwest, and can't wait for Matt to get up there. And, man, it'd just be unbelievable if he could pull off the win up there.
And the car's going to be wrapped with Rottler. So it's all coming together, and you guys are going to have an open house. So let's give the first of the official information that we want to give out there, like scheduling type stuff, Ed and Keith, so that people who are listening, as soon as this gets posted, if they're planning on being in the area for the NHRA Camping World Series event, or if they're one of your customers from that area, July 27th. July 27th is a Wednesday. What's happening at Rottler, Ed, and who's invited, and what's the scenario for this open house?
Sure. So obviously Matt and the crew and the car are going to be there in the parking lot and be on display. And so we're ecstatic over that. We can't wait for that to happen. And we're going to have an open house to where customers or just race fans can tour the facility, and it's from 9 to 2. I think Matt will be around there, and we'll probably serve lunch and do some things there. But we're just super excited to have this going on.
And can a fan show up? Is this, or you have to be like
Sure.
a machinist? Do you have to have a shop? Like, who is welcome at this?
Well, obviously, if a fan wants to show up, we love fans. They're the reason that we all do this sort of thing, and that we support NHRA as much as we do. So fans can show up if they would like to. Obviously, the machine shops in the area, or any customers that are in the machine shop business or engine building business, and we'd just love to have everybody.
And where's the location? Let's give that vital information. Of course, they can search on the web and find addresses and such, but give us the info for Rottler, or maybe that's something they can find on your website to drive them to that.
They can, but the address is 8029 South 200th Street, and it's in Kent, Washington. It's literally 20 minutes from the racetrack, 15 minutes from the airport. So, and in fact, if you're going from the airport to the racetrack, you almost have to go through Kent, Washington. So we're a suburb of Seattle, and not far from the track and not far from the airport. So
wow,
pretty convenient.
I think they have a stay in Kent, actually, and so I will not be in on Wednesday, but I might have to swing by and see Rottler anyway, because that is...
Oh, we'd love to have you, Joe.
Yeah, just a pop-in, right, to see the whole
Yep.
deal. Where do the machines get made? Like, that's amazing. That's got to be an amazing situation, or at least the mothership, to say the least. So, Rottler Open House, July 27th, in and around the whole final race of the NHRA Western Swing up there at Pacific Raceways. And that's great. But also, at the track, both Friday and Saturday, for those with a ticket, a paid ticket. You don't just get to go into the race because of this. But if you have a ticket, and this is for a lot of our Lucas Oil Series racers and engine builders, the Trackside Tech Talk is back. And, Ed, you've been involved with all of these, I think, and it's just a different vibe, right? Like, you get FaceTime with drivers and engine builders, and they all come in and they sit down, and you guys knock out a presentation in about 45 minutes, and it's pretty cool. Get a great chance to press the flesh. We're going to talk about a lot of it here today on the podcast, but you can go so much deeper at the Trackside Tech Talk.
Yeah, no question. We can really get into the nuts and bolts, and the fellas or the people that attend that can ask very distinct or very definitive questions, and we'll take the time to answer them. And the nice thing about this is it's really not terribly formal. So we may stand around for another half hour, 45 minutes to an hour, just answering questions after the tech talk's over. So yeah, really a great way to convey some knowledge that I've been lucky enough to learn over the 48 years I've been in this business, and I think I can't speak for Keith, but I suspect he feels the same way.
Yeah, what about it, Keith? You're not going to be at this one.
Oh.
We're going to have Lake is going to be there. As I understand it, maybe I'm wrong about that. Lay it on me for the Trackside Tech Talks Friday and Saturday of the NHRA Seattle event. But it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. It gets you that one-on-one. And as you said, I'm not going to be at this one. I've got some prior commitments, but yeah, Lake's going to be there. But I will definitely hook up with we'll say everybody at Indy, which will be the next Trackside Tech Talk. But yeah, the Trackside Tech Talks are great. We've got an excellent seminar, covers a lot of bases, gives a lot of great information, but it's that one-on-one communication. Whether it's the engine builder, the racer, the fan, everybody's welcome as long as Joe said, you're paid and you're at the track. You can ask those one-on-one questions, and what's great is those conversations will sometimes lead you down a rabbit hole. This question leads to that question. It might have not even been anything that was on your mind, but next thing you know, we're talking about something completely over, on another field. And, all these, and it becomes great. Sometimes it becomes a group of people all interacting together. This guy asks this question, that guy, oh yeah, hey, that happened to me. And we're all, like Ed said, standing there for an hour going over all these different scenarios. And it's really it's a great format and a lot of great information shared.
Excellent. And the Flavor Pack NHRA Northwest Nationals at Pacific Raceways in Kent, Washington, July 29th through 31st. The Rottler Open House the Wednesday before, July 27th. And those Trackside Tech Talks midday, couple hours before qualifying, Friday and Saturday, both days. I'm not going to give an exact time, guys, because those sometimes move around a little bit depending on what's going on. So get a ticket, come into the race, come to the Total Seal Pit. That's where it all goes down. Hartford actually gets a little extra space in there, and people are welcome to come in, watch them work on the car. The most recent winning Pro Stock car, to say the least, and they're coming on strong. Actually been qualifying real well the past couple of races. But now, the purpose of this particular episode is we're going to kind of build on some things that we've talked about in the past with regards to honing. And Ed, this is your area. You've been name-checked many times as like the guy, the guru. Honing has changed a lot over the past how long? Because now everyone is talking about surface finish and different styles of hone. We had Dr. Mark Malberg on a few episodes ago, kind of talked about the microscopic level of shape, and it's not what it once was. Give us a little bit of an overview, and then Keith, dive in with some questions to evolve the conversation.
Certainly.
Yeah. So, first of all, I have to give a shout out to Mr. Malberg. Dr. Malberg is, if I had just a teeny bit of the knowledge that Mr. Wahlberg has, I'd consider myself a lucky guy. So, a very, very smart individual, and I learn a lot every time I'm around that gentleman. He has kind of talked about some things about what we call extreme plateau. And in the past, what's happened is as things evolved, and it's all about measuring equipment, and that's where Mark is so intelligent and has so much knowledge, is in the ability to measure surface finish. And in the past, we used a simple process, the arithmetic average, or RA, and didn't tell us a whole lot, but it was a start, and now we've gotten into the Abbott Firestone curve and the RVK values, and that is a much more definitive way of defining surface finish, especially for plateau honing, and Mark's on the cutting edge of that stuff. And so, we've always been a proponent of what we call a true plateau, and that's starting with a really rough abrasive and then going over one-step process with a very fine abrasive and creating a true plateau for the rings to see and then the oil to also see. So, it creates a a deeper groove or a deeper path for the oil, and it creates a smoother finish for the ring pack to see. So that's really what it's about in a nutshell. But Mark has defined it to the nth degree, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll jump in there. Yeah, Mark really has. He's taken it from, we'll say black magic voodoo science that nobody really understood, and he's brought it forward in terms and in explanations. Anybody that, wants to dig a little deeper in this, check out Mark's website at Digital Metrology. He puts this in, I'll use the word layman terms, but he puts forward very good videos explaining this in terms that even a knucklehead like me can understand about getting the right frequencies and lengths in the extreme plateau and really understanding these surfaces and bringing it from a dark, voodoo science that, we all talked about but never really understood to the light of day. And we bring it forth with equipment that can be purchased at relatively low costs and allow the end user to be able to, if you had a profilometer you're doing in your garage, guess what? You can do it in your garage. It's a matter of having, the right equipment and the ability to measure these surfaces. And again, working with guys like Mark, it has helped to bring this information, outright, out to everybody.
Yeah. So what we're really talking about is the ability to generate the RK values in a specific range that the ring manufacturers want to see for their particular ring or the particular application. And, I go back 20 years, and it used to be we honed blocks for a particular set of rings, whether it be a chrome ring or a cast iron ring or a moly ring or what have you. And today we actually set honing parameters, or we try to get specific surface finish values more on the application than we do the composition of the ring. So, in today's world, we look at naturally aspirated engines, and we look at nitrous engines, and we look at blown engines, and we look at what Keith termed and I like to use as the crazy diesel guys, that put 130 pounds of boost in a cylinder, and God knows how much fuel that they put through that cylinder in a matter of a few seconds. But what it's done is it's changed surface finish parameters, but it's changed the honing process immensely. And you can no longer. Well, let me back up. The first thing I really like to tell everyone is there's a lot of guys out there that are honing a certain way, and they say, listen, man, I've been successful for 30 years, and you're telling me it's wrong. I'm not trying to tell you it's wrong. What you're doing will work. What we're trying to do between Rottler and Total Seal is to show you how you can make literally more horsepower. Everyone that I've dealt with in this new extreme plateau realm, and using some of the 6-stone diamond hone heads to a man, every one of them that's really specific and has done a lot of this same motor time and time again, come back to me and said, my gosh, I picked up 9 horsepower, I picked up 15 horsepower, I picked up 20 horsepower. And what we're finding is through some of these really well-known, renowned engine builders, is the more RVK values that we give them, the better the motor likes it, and the faster they go, and the more horsepower they make. So it's really kind of a neat deal. We've been honing for years, but I feel like we're on the cutting edge right now, and we're able to really help fellas improve or step their game up a little bit.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100% with this. In the years and years and years that I've been doing this, people would always call up, hey, how do I, like Ed just indicated, how do I hone it for a cast ring, or how do I hone it for a chrome ring, or I need to hone it like this for a moly ring. And I still get those phone calls. We still get those comments every single day. And as Ed said, we've been a proponent of, we hone based on application. How hard's your block, and what are you doing with it? If we're using, a production gray iron block, and we're going to go circle track racing, and I expect to get 2,500 laps out of it. Well, I've got a block that's relatively soft, and it's going to wear relatively quick, especially if we're introducing, alcohol or a lot of gas through it, something where we're putting a lot of fuel to it. So we have to match that surface finish to the expectation of the customer and the application, what that block is being used in. Now, if I take that same type of application, but I use a hard block like a dart block or a world product block, or I've got an aluminum block with a dart and sleeve or LA sleeve, he still wants that 2,500 laps, but I've got a much harder surface. Now I can adjust those values, assuming same rings, same application, and I can adjust those values so that we get that ring seal that he wants for the life that he wants. So it's really a matter of tailoring the ring seal to, again, we're back to what are you doing? What's the application? Not so much what the ring is. Again, what are you doing? What's the application? How I'd hone a top fuel motor is completely different than how I would hone, a circle track guy that's going to go out and run, A-mods in Illinois. It's going to be a completely different, type of process. And that's what we're trying to get out there, is that information that we, this one kind of honing thing that's been developed over the years, kind of everybody honing the same thing, same style, same processes, is the furthest thing from the truth. We have to tailor these based on application and again, the hardness of the block, what we're doing with it. So it's opening the eyes up and saying, hey, we're not saying, like Ed said, we're not saying you're doing it wrong. What you're doing probably will work, but how good is it? How much power are you leaving on the table? How much longevity are you leaving? I'll go to one of the very, very common things that I deal with, and I'll again go back to the circle track world, is, always the mid-season rebuild. Guys are running, mid-season, they've got to re-ring it. It's starting to get some blow-by. It's starting to get some oil control problems. And, they take it apart, they hone it, they put a fresh set of rings in it, and that new set of rings fixed it up. Well, as much as I want to say, yeah, the new rings probably did, what really probably fixed it more than anything was the honing of the cylinder. It's lost the cylinder finish. Restoring that cylinder finish and bringing it back brought it back to where it was before. The rings were probably okay, but we generally throw a set of rings on when we hone, so they kind of go hand in hand. But more than likely, it was the restoring of the finish that corrected the problem.
Very, very interesting. I have now the times for the Trackside Tech Talk, guys, because I got to thinking about the folks out there, and I said, you know what, let's give them the exact information as is scheduled at this moment. Trackside Tech Talk at the Flavor Pack NHRA Northwest Nationals, Friday 1 p.m., Saturday 10 a.m. So Ed, you're gonna have to get up bright and early if you're gonna lead us in that Tech Talk. 10 a.m. Ed, you're gonna be out there.
I'll just throw this out there, Eddie. Ed, Matt's trailer's got it's got sleeping quarters up in the front. You just spend the night.
Yeah.
Just spend the night. Yeah.
Do an all-nighter, man. Maybe people are there. They'll be interested. They'll be knowing the details. But I just wanted to get that information in there. We're talking Trackside Tech Talks. We're talking Rottler open houses. But we're talking honing here with Ed Kiebler, who is a North American sales manager for Rottler. They're going to be on the side of Hartford's car for the next two races. And this episode is, very current and up to speed. Now, Ed, how do you accomplish that? I can understand you are fighting, and fighting isn't even the right word. I like the way you backed up, right? Like, you're not doing it wrong. It's just evolution of knowledge, right? Like, yeah, you're at the point of the evolution of knowledge where you learned, and that's working, and it worked. It worked great. At the time, it was as far as we knew. It was the best that there was. But since that point, things have continued forward, and there's now new information and new technology. And that's what you guys are all about, right? The new technology making things that weren't once possible. So speak a little bit on that, and how, what are some of the processes, even for the folks who don't have the latest, greatest machines, what are some of the processes and how does it work so that they understand and maybe make an upgrade?
Sure. So, in the past, what we've always done is when we talk about plateau finishes, we had the misconception is we would start with, say, and we'll talk about standard abrasives at the moment. We would start with a 220 grit, and we would hone to within 0.003, and then we would move up to a 280 grit, and we'd hone to within 0.005 thousandths, and then we'd move up to a 320 grit or a 400 grit, and we'd hone the last 0.005 thousandths out. Well, what happens there is you're removing so much material that you're no longer putting a plateau in that surface, in that cylinder. You've gone from a 220 grit finish to a 280 grit finish to a 400 grit finish. And that's really all you have. So the 400 grit finish is great for the rings, but it's horrible for oil retention. And so this extreme plateau that Mark speaks about is we go from with a very rough abrasive, say a 170 grit, directly to a 600 grit abrasive. And what that means is there is very little room for error. So in the past, let's say you tried to plateau with some of the older equipment, and you would start the machine and it would start honing, and you'd rough your cylinders in, and you rough them to size, believe it or not. In other words, we're going to use a rough abrasive, and we're going to take them right to size, because with the 600 grits, we're really not removing material. All we're doing is just taking off the peaks of the, as I call them, mountaintops. And so new machines is, if the automatic machines, the hone head spins during the feed out cycle at the top of the cylinder, I've ruined my finish in the top of the cylinder. My finish in the bottom of the cylinder is going to be completely different than it is in the top of the cylinder. And obviously, the top of the cylinder is where everything happens. Your combustion and your explosion and everything happens right there. So the new technology allows us to, when we plateau, we no longer spin the hone head until the stones are against the cylinder wall. We actually feed the abrasives out, or the stones, to the cylinder wall before we begin rotation. And that gives us a much more consistent surface finish and the ability to hit these extreme plateau numbers that companies like Total Seal and Mark are looking for to do a better job.
Keith, dive in here.
Yeah, what's happened is, and you kind of wonder, everything's kind of secular. I actually measured some cylinders the other day from a 1940s aircraft engine, and you want to know something? They had a pretty darn good cylinder finish. So my question was, what were they doing back then, and how did we get away from that? Because things do change over time, different theories, different practices, and sometimes we come full circle. And one of the things that has happened is, as Ed indicated, this multiple step honing process that was generated over who knows how many decades of, rough it out with an 80, bring it to size with a 220, but leave a couple tenths short of size, and then come in with a 280, then a 400, and these multiple step hones. What everybody seems to have lost thought of, or maybe they didn't know, is these cuts are micro inches. These are very, very small cuts. And if you take more than a couple of tenths out of a cylinder, what you laid down there prior to that, it's gone. It's, so you went in with all these stones trying to put this valley in and get that deep valley, but you then came in and what I'll call multi-stepped it, and it's a very common practice, and you literally end up wiping everything you did prior to that out without realizing. Because again, it's really hard to see this stuff. We're talking micro inches. Without a profilometer, it's just guessing. After some experience, some time, you can kind of put an eyeball on a cylinder and kind of see a good one, see a bad one. They have a look. Ed knows that. Lake knows that. People that do it, it's got a look, and you can kind of look at it and go, that looks pretty good to me. But you still have to have the tools to measure it. But the point is, going from that extremely rough finish to that extremely smooth finish to get that extreme plateau, it's not going to let you down, because it's going to leave that valley, and we're going to keep that RVK number high. We're going to keep that RK number up, but we're going to use that very fine abrasive to bring and get that extreme plateau, again, giving us the best of both worlds. We've got a very smooth finish on the top, but we got a rough finish in the bottom, giving us that oil trapping, that oil retention, that oh so important oil, which is what seals the ring. The oil is the seal. It is the gasket. The rings don't seal on the cylinder wall. They seal on the oil that's retained by the cylinder wall. And just because we're throwing that oil up there in huge volumes and throwing it all over the cylinder, it's the ring's job to scrape all that oil back down into the sump. And they do a pretty darn good job of it. So now we add, copious amounts of fuel, like Ed mentioned, the big crazy diesel guys, or, alcohol cars, fuel cars. We add all this fuel that's trying to wash all that back down. If we don't leave that deep valley in there, that tooth, that something for the oil to bite on and grab a hold of, we're going to put it all back in the sump. And ultimately, the rings are going to go metal to metal on the wall. We're going to experience premature wear. excessive blow-by. We're going to have bad vacuum if we're trying to pull vacuum, and bottom line, just really bad ring seal. So it's so important to do that, what we'll call that two-step process. Bring it to size with that very aggressive stone, then plateau with that very fine stone. It won't do you wrong.
Ed, for people out there, I'm just kind of thinking about some of the people that I've met in our Trackside Tech Talks, and the guy you were just talking about, right? But man, this is the way I've always done it, right? And maybe they're interested, and maybe they like, okay, now you sold me. I used to have VHS tapes, and then I got DVDs, and now I can just download stuff. So why would I plug in the VHS tape when I can download stuff, right? So technology evolves, but what is the process for them then? Can they try it with their current equipment? Do they have to have the latest, greatest equipment? What is the path forward for someone who says, all right, it makes sense to me. I'd like to try this. I've never done it, though. What do I do?
Yep, that's a great question. And obviously there's probably some people out there going, oh, I already know what the answer is. You got to buy the latest and greatest equipment. And that's not true. I will not lie to you. The new equipment makes it a whole lot easier, a whole lot more repeatable. And it takes the black magic out of honing. So there are guys out there that are so good at honing that they could do it in their sleep, and they, with just some adjustments and abrasives and maybe some adjustments in techniques, they can do it. They can get very close to what we do automatically. But the newer machines make it easier for maybe a less skilled operator to create that same thing. And then the other caveat is the profilometer. We get so many fellas that don't want to, they'll invest $1,100 for a set of diamonds, or they'll invest $60,000 or $100,000 in a machine, and then they balk at, I don't know, $2,500 for a profilometer. And as Keith mentioned earlier, you really cannot do this without a profilometer in hand, because the varying Brinell hardnesses of a block create, different scenarios and different problems. As Keith was saying, you get just a stock GM block with a little bit softer material, a little less Brinell in it. It will hone differently than a dart block will, or a dart and sleeve will, or some of the other ductile irons. And so it's really important to have the profilometer to be able to see what you're actually doing, because the naked eye cannot distinguish between a RVK of 35 and an RVK of 55, but the rings and the oil sure can. So that to me is the biggest thing. Is if you're going to jump off and try this, the first thing you have to arm yourself with is a profilometer.
And I think that's like top 5 rules of hidden horsepower, right, Keith? Like, own a profilometer is just one of the commandments of hidden horsepower.
Yeah, I can't impress that enough. We've been, preaching the need of profilometers for 25 years. I mean, they've become very accessible price-wise today. As Ed said, I mean, they're not that much, $2,400, $2,500. They're just, it's an indispensable tool. But, and even for the guys, if you're just an amateur, you do 1 or 2 inches a year, seek it out. Somebody in your area, somebody probably not too far, that's a nice person. Hey, even if you're honing the block, you might be able to talk them into checking yours for you, or maybe giving you some tips. I even have a couple of guys that I deal with. They're smaller engine shops or one man. They got together. A few of them all got together. They all chipped in, and guess what? They share one. They don't need them every day, but hey, they need them when they need them. So do whatever you can. Find a friend, check the local shops, get with a group of guys. It really is a game changer. It's like anything else. It lifts the curtain off, and you know for sure what you have. You're no longer guessing. You're no longer thinking it's right. It's one of the questions, or one of the comments I get, I shouldn't say it's a question, but one of the comments I get, from so many guys that have bought a profilometer, and it is a bit of a learning curve when you get one, about different techniques and what you have to do. And some of them realizing how far off they were. And then once they get it, they're amazed at what the improvement is. Not only power, vacuum, how fast everything seals up, how much quicker everything happened, in the process. It really is a game changer, and I don't mean to keep going on and on about it, but I can't even imagine honing a lawnmower with that one these days. It's just that important to have those numbers at your disposal.
Ed?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with Keith. To me, it's like showing up at the racetrack without your tire pressure gauge. How do you set, if you can't set tire pressure instead of slicks, gosh knows what kind of pass you're going to make. I mean, it's just that important. And the other thing I want to add is yes, I work for Rottler, and yes, we promote our products. But, if you've got honing questions or I can help in any way, I've been doing this for 48 years now. I am glad to help someone that doesn't have a Rottler machine. If I can help anyone improve or get better or make more horsepower, I am more than happy to do that. So I really don't mind phone calls from guys with competitive machines, and I'll help them out any way I can.
And how do they get hold of you? Let's just do that right now, right? They're running for their paper. They're like, Ed says we can call him. And I've seen you talk to those people as well. You're in such a specialized industry, right? Like so much effort goes into this. You want to help people as much as you can. So how would people what is the best way for people to get a hold of you, Ed?
They can reach me on my email address, which is ed@rottlermfg.com. They can call directly to Rottler and ask for me, and the number there is 253-872-7050, or my cell phone is 206-915-6810.
Wow, giving out the cell phone, Keith. That's a big deal right there.
I was like, hey, don't make it what you asked for. Yeah.
You sure about that, Ed? You sure about it? You're like Bill Bader Jr. from Norwalk giving out his cell phone. But no, our audience, like this is the kind of thing, like the people listening to Hidden Horsepower are very serious about it. It's not like race fans necessarily, although we do have some, right? It's people who are on the quest for knowledge. They want to know these things, and the fact that you're willing to help them is very important. All right, we're going to wind down a little bit. I'm going to get you, Ed, with our typical advice for the next generation question, as we always do. It's a benchmark of Hidden Horsepower, so be ready for that. But you were also talking about how some of these numbers are different based on application. Can you go a little deeper into that? Because we've got round track guys, we've got drag race guys, you were just talking about Derby, all these different applications, and the engines aren't necessarily built the same.
No, that's right, and obviously, surface finish varies because of that, and a typical, and again, I tell people all the time in our Trackside Tech Talks, I'm not smart enough to tell you what you should have. That's Keith Jones's area. He's the guru there, but I'm smart enough to tell you how to get it. But as on average, as Keith kind of alluded a little earlier, you have say a 410 sprint car engine builder, and they're pumping a bunch of alcohol through those motors, and so I was just up at a gentleman we sold a new hone to, and I went in there with a preconceived notion that we were going to need RVK values 55 to 65. And I took the abrasives that I knew would do the job. And when I get there, those guys tell me that they want RVK values in the 75 to 90 range. And I was just flabbergasted, to be honest with you. But they were telling me, and this is not just seat of your pants. This is a very scientific way of doing things. They told me these motors are the more RVK they're putting in them, they're waking up and they're happy and they're not hurting parts and they're going faster. So that's a sprint car motor. A fuel motor would probably take even more RVK. And then we get into the crazy diesel guys and Keith's got great story there about one of the fellas that couldn't even get the motor out of the warm-up cycle and even make a pull on it before they would trash the rings. and he kept prodding the gentleman to go, higher RVK numbers, and now we've got to the point where that particular individual is talking about he's going to go a season now and not have to tear the motor down. So that's kind of what we're talking about. But again, depending on the fuel that you're using and the loads that you're producing, and the somewhat the application, whether it's a round track or a drag race or what have you, the RVK values will vary, and that's, again, I fall back to that profilometer. You really need one of those to be able to tell the difference, because you're not going to be able to tell a 55 RVK from a 75, 85, or 95 RVK, in my opinion, short of having a profilometer.
Keith?
And what Ed said is the truth. We've had these preconceived numbers that we've dealt with for years and years and years, and we're pushing those RVK numbers up higher and higher and higher, and to areas that, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would I tell a guy to have an RVK of 150? Not a chance. No way. It's like, oh my God, it's going to oil like a pig. It's going to do this. It's going to do this. But the reason we're able to do these and get these numbers now is working with guys like Ed and developing the processes that, again, we come back to. Traditionally in the past, if we got that RVK of a 150, well, we would have had RK numbers 190, 200. We might have been able to get the peak numbers down to 60 or 70. Well, that is going to create an oil burner, and that is going to tear the rings up when you first fire the engine up, and it's just going to ultimately destroy itself. But because of how technology has advanced, we are now able to get that extreme plateau that Mark talked about, getting those peak numbers down to 10, 12, 15, and yet get that RVK of 150 to get the best of both worlds, to get the peanut butter and the chocolate in one spot, and and get those kinds of surface finishes. And that's been the game changer. That's what's giving us the best of both worlds and just elevating everything we're doing.
I feel like Ed Kiebler from Rottler is going to have to come back here on Hidden Horsepower, maybe on a regular basis, maybe even do a Q&A. I am as excited as any guest that we've had, Ed, and I know we've hung out many, many times over the past few years, but I think this has been a very informative episode for the folks out there to at least get some understanding. I want to remind everybody, Wednesday, July 27th, the open house at Rottler. People are welcome. Call, check out the website, obviously, to find out all the details. But July 27th, and this is a podcast, guys. We're not doing live radio. Someone didn't just turn on in the middle of the podcast. But I want to reinforce that July 27th, Rottler Open House. Hartford's going to have his Pro Stocker there. It's going to be a big deal. And then Friday and Saturday at the NHRA Flavor Pack Northwest Nationals, we've got Trackside Tech Talks. Ed's going to be there 1 p.m. Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday. If you've got a ticket, if you're a racer, you're welcome. It's happening in Hartford's pit area. And these are great. They're very informative. There's Q&A time, and there's FaceTime with these guys, so you'll be able to use it. Come out to the races, by the way, and plan to stick around, because we're going to have a great day at the races. Keith, is there anything you wanted to corner Ed with while we got him?
Well, the thing is, Ed and I do talk quite a bit, and I guess if I'm going to corner him, it's going to be who's going to be the guest band at Rottler's 100th anniversary. I think I know who it's going to be. Ed probably can't say because it's probably nothing locked in, but we'll just say I know they're working on a big-name rock band, and I'm trying to corner him on that.
There you go. My boss, Mr. David Bianchi, has promised us a big name band we're going to celebrate 100 years in business next year, Joe. So, man, we'd love to have you there also. Probably going to be in October, but man, we'd love for everybody to attend.
Wow, okay. You see how he did that, Keith? He just dodged right around your question. You tried to corner him, and he just went right around. He did a move. It was like Barry Sanders.
He did a bat turn right there.
He did.
I did a bat turn. Yep. Yeah. I don't want to put my boss on the spot yet.
Very smart. Very smart of you, and I know David as well, and he'll appreciate that. But if the schedule allows it, I would love to head up there and see a big-name band for the 100th birthday of Rottler and next year. That would be great stuff. All right, Ed, at the end of each episode of Hidden Horsepower, we ask our guest, hey, you were young once. What advice would you give to the young you that's out there now, that's maybe interested in this as a career, is an engine builder or has a shop or who knows, but they're looking for that bit of advice to help them go down the road? You're kind of a little different, but you're also very much the same, right? You're setting up machines and learning about clients and customers and kind of teaching the ways on the North American sales side of things. What advice would you give?
This is very, 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 very simple advice, but I look back on my career and I have been so lucky, Joe. I have had several mentors that have guided me and taken the time with me that I own. I really do. I owe everything to them. They've been just monumental in my career. And I would tell the young people, this is something that I probably didn't do near enough of, but ask questions. And I know it's hard, but listen to the older guys because they do have a wealth of knowledge. And maybe sometimes our stories don't jive with what you want to hear or something like that. But honestly, there's a wealth of knowledge out there, and man, just learn everything you can. And enthusiasm, in my opinion, trumps knowledge. I'll take a young, enthusiastic young person over someone that thinks they know everything. So have enthusiasm, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, that to me is the biggest thing. And tag along with guys like Mark Wahlberg and Keith Jones and Lake Speed and Joe Castello and just, man, listen because you're gonna learn a lot when you're listening and not talking.
Old guys like Keith and Lake, exactly.
Yeah, and me, yeah.
Excellent.
And Joe, can I throw a plug out real quick? I just want to throw something out.
Throw it out there.
It's going to come out, relatively soon. Had a gentleman reach out to me on Monday, and this kind of goes down what we've talked about before. Avid listener of the show. He's in the state of Georgia. He's gone to the School of Automotive Machinists, praised Judson and Linda, loved all that. And he's like, you know what, man, how do I find some of these guys that are looking for help? So the bottom line, if you guys are out there, you're in the state of Georgia, this gentleman, I talked to him for probably a half an hour on the phone, very enthusiastic. Like Ed said, he's willing to learn. He's willing to do it your way. Total enthusiasm. He reached out to me. Hey, if you're looking for somebody to help you in your shop, you're looking to bring a guy up and put him on the path, email me at keithj@totalseal.com. I will put you guys together.
Wow. Very good. Look at that.
Yeah, that's great, Keith. That's absolutely phenomenal. And I would do the same thing. I would tell any young person that is looking, to get into a shop, like call Keith, call me, because my customers are constantly telling me, find me a young person, and a lot of these guys are wanting to turn the shop over. In other words, they have no heirs. They're either going to liquidate or sell or walk away. And man, what a great opportunity for some young people to get in there, learn underneath them for a year or two, and begin to purchase the company.
And the Hidden Horsepower Staffing Agency was born, just like that, right?
Absolutely.
We're like headhunters now.
Take a small commission.
Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? Sorry, guys. The funny guy comes out in me every now and again. Yeah. Ed, great job as usual. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. We're putting this one out immediately so that everybody gets the news about the Rottler Open House, the Trackside Tech Talk, and I really want everybody who is in the area. I know that you live up there, Ed, or not. You live down by me, don't you? But you spend time up there.
Yep.
And that it's its own universe, right? The Great Northwest. It's like its own country. It's totally self-sufficient up there. But there are so many die-hard car people, racing people. Drag racing has been up there, a big been big up there for 50 years. And so I imagine we're going to have a great show. And you guys are going to have a Rottler car on the racetrack with Matt Hartford and his Pro Stocker for the next 2 races. Just super exciting event. The weekend coming up, July 27th is the open house, and the national event follows Friday through Sunday. Great job. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you very much, Joe. Great job.
And there he goes, Mr. Ed Kiebler. Keith, how great was that?
Oh, it's awesome. Ed's a wealth of knowledge, and like you said, 48 years in this industry. That man's forgotten more than I know, and what a lot of people know. He's a great resource, and as well, on top of that, just a great guy.
Absolutely. Anything else you wanted to drop in there, Keith? Tell the people where they can get a hold of you. Ed gave out his, personal, private information. The least you can do, and you always do it, is let people who have questions know where they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. You can reach out to us on the website at totalseal.com. My email, keithj@totalseal.com, or the toll-free 800-874-2753. Give us a call. We're looking forward to your questions, helping answer the questions. We've got a great staff of people, all knowledgeable, all enthusiastic. And again, you got a question, a comment, give us a call. Like Ed said, whether it's my rings, it's somebody else's rings, we're here to help you. That's what it's about. It's about shared information and helping you have the best result with your app, with your engine build.
He's Keith Jones, the Director of Technical Sales at Total Seal Piston Rings. Big thanks to Ed Kiebler from Rottler. You guys should go to the open house and definitely come to the race and be a part of that Trackside Tech Talk. With your ticket, of course, you got to come out. I'm Joe Castello. I'm one of the NHRA track announcers. I also do a podcast called WFO Radio, and this past week's episode features a certain pro stock racer at the track named Matt Hartford, who just won a big race out there in Denver, the Dodge Power Brokers Mile High Nationals, and he is going to try. He's the only pro stock racer that has an opportunity to sweep the Western Swing. That's going to do it, folks. We'll see you next time on Hidden Horsepower, presented by Total Seal Piston Rings.